It's time for the Charlotte FC podcast. Welcome to the Charlotte FC podcast. We have a big match this weekend. Charlotte FC takes on San Diego FC. And with me today is Tony Husband to do a little match preview. So you may have remembered Tony from a couple of years ago on an interview. Well, now we got him back just to talk about this match because he's going to be in town doing it after being in Toronto, enjoying the Niagara Falls after. And now he's going to catch us up on what we need to look for in this match and kind of what he sees as an outsider to what's going on with Charlotte FC and San Diego FC. Welcome, Tony.
Nick, it's really nice to be back with you. I have great memories of the first detailed conversation we had as well a couple of years back when we talked all sorts of things. So it's a pleasure to be asked to come back on.
Awesome. Well, I want to bring up just some kind of stats on the teams and kind of catch everybody up. So San Diego FC, if you have not been paying attention, they're a pretty good team. They have 14 points in their first inaugural year. They're third in the MLS Western Conference, seventh in the Supporters Shield, have a 2-2 home record, 8 points at home, but they also have 6 points on the road. So they have 2 points and 2 losses. Their last loss came against Colorado Rapids last weekend, a 3-2 loss, but that's actually the same team that Charlotte last lost to also a couple weeks ago. On the other side, on the flip side, Charlotte is going for, I believe, 8 in a row at home as far as wins. This year, they have 16 points on 5 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw. They're second in the MLS East, third overall in the Supporters Shield, and most would say they haven't even played a complete game yet. So it's pretty astonishing how high they've climbed. And of course, their home record is a big thing. And this game is in Charlotte. So, Tony, what do you think it's going to take for San Diego FC, this away team here, to come probably into one of the best atmospheres in all of MLS and the home field advantages that it has? How are they going to come out on top or what do they have to do?
Well, when you say what's it going to take, I think it's going to take a lot, to be honest with you. Charlotte have succeeded in making Bank of America Stadium one of the top fortresses in Major League Soccer right now. And in fact, I was actually looking this up, Nick, and you can go back quite a stretch, even to pre-Dean Smith days, to actually see that Charlotte have been a very good home team. I think it's only 3 defeats in 21 home in MLS regular season games. And historically, actually, it's only 9, I think, in 55. So that's a very, very good home record, backed by, of course, a passionate home crowd. Difficult venue to go into. It's a bit of a cliche we sometimes use. I think it applies fairly, though, when we talk about Charlotte. So for San Diego, who, of course, started so well and are still getting results at home, but have lost a couple on the road now, this is a difficult one, not to mention, of course, the fact that this is their longest trip of the year, right across from coast to coast. So they've got to deal with a long journey in as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like, you were talking about just home records. Your Nashville team, when you were covering them, they were quite on that kind of same track, whereas they were almost impossible to beat at home. So that has since changed in a little bit, but hopefully they're getting it back. What does it take for a team, or what happens when a team is at home? Because I know a lot of times people talk about, well, it doesn't really matter if the team's good enough, they're going to win on the road. But what does that give the team knowing that they have that kind of support and background at home? What do you think it adds?
Well, I think the general answer on it, Nick, is really it's the home game and the home stadiums. It's all about having a foundation for your team. And I think that the importance of home results is something that every player on every roster understands. You start really from a base where you want to say at home, you want to win, and certainly you don't want to lose games. And the best teams don't lose many games at home at all. And when they do have off days, they find a way to get something from the game. They'll find a way to scrap and to nick a draw and not be beaten. So I think really that goes for every team in every league. It's your starting point of everything, is you want home results. And I think actually, as I mentioned, Charlotte have generally done that in MLS. A couple of years ago, they weren't winning as many games at home as they would have liked. It was a lot of draws. Nashville had the same thing. Unbeaten at home in their second season in MLS. 9 of their 17 games were actually draws. but nobody came to, as it was Nissan Stadium then, the NFL stadium they were playing in, nobody came there and won. And it took until Sporting Kansas City went to the new Geodis Park the following year for somebody to actually win at Nashville, and that ended that long, long run. So, getting results at home is vital. And if you've got a good support behind you and you've got a good foundation and backbone to your team, and I think that's what Charlotte have got right now and have had for some time, then you're going to be difficult to face at home. And I think it imprints it in the mind of the opposition as well. There's no doubt in the back of their minds, San Diego will know this weekend, not many people get results at Charlotte.
Right. So how would you compare like the form and the momentum of both teams? Because Charlotte's coming off of a road win, San Diego coming off of a loss, and you get again another road trip and having to pay from the environment that we're talking about. But how are they actually on the pitch? How are they forming? Is it trending in any ways that you see?
Well, I expect to see a little bit more inconsistency creep into San Diego as we go forward. And that's purely because that's the state that they're at. They've had a great start. We saw St. Louis do much the same when they came into the league. Nashville, to a certain extent, did a little bit of that as well. It wasn't such an easy start for the likes of Charlotte. But there are still a team that is learning and finding their feet in this league. They've had a very, very impressive start. But I do expect them to be a little bit up and down from time to time. Both these teams have lost to Colorado. What does that tell you about Colorado in the early stages of this season? They look like a team on a good upward trajectory. So that's what I would expect from San Diego right now. I don't think they're going to be hitting 9 out of 10 every week. They're going to have some in and out weeks as they still develop in the league and get to know each other as a team, and potentially, of course, bring new recruits in as well. As for Charlotte, I'm looking for Charlotte to put the foot down and capitalize on this good start. Totally different criteria for me for this Charlotte team. They've had a year under Dean Smith. They know exactly what they want and what he wants from them. Got a great foundation. Don't give away much. Are pragmatic when they need to be. Very strong at home at Bank of America Stadium. 4 wins in 5 games now. I'm looking for Charlotte to keep this going and keep this momentum in what is a long year, but ultimately to kick on and have an impressive year. I did my preseason predictions. I had Charlotte to finish second in the East. So I'm hoping
you're doing pretty well right now.
That. Yeah, well, I just felt that the addition of Wilfred Zaha would add something to this group that was already looking pretty good. And I think he just adds the stardust on top of it, because he's a player I've watched so much in England. I saw him up close so many times. One of the best players of the English Premier League to just enjoy watching. One of the great entertainers of the English League in the last decade before he moved on to Turkey. So that's kind of why I had Charlotte quite high. I will say, though, I've got a bit of Charlotte watching still to do before the weekend, and I'll watch the Montreal game in its entirety, but I've seen only the highlights so far. I watched the Miami game earlier in the season. Miami down to 10 men for a large portion of the game, I think over an hour. And I came away from that a little bit disappointed in Charlotte, because I felt that they just needed to be a little bit more ambitious, show a little bit more urgency, because they were playing 10 men for an hour, gave away a poor goal at the start of the second half. And so having tipped them for second, I was kind of thinking that, a bit disappointed in that, albeit it was against Miami on the road. But they've really kicked on pretty much since, with just that one loss, the game in Colorado.
So since you've been able to watch Wilfred Zaha so much, what is your take on his adjustment to MLS? And he was injured last match, so he didn't even play. So how are you thinking he's fitting in, or how does it take a player like that to be able to come into this league? Because it is different. No matter where you are, MLS is a different league, and there's different types of style and things that come into it.
Yeah, he's a wonderful player. As you say, I had a chance to see him a lot at Crystal Palace in his days when I was over there. And he's just one of these great entertainers of the game. He's an incredibly skillful player. He can carry a team on his back. He very much did that for Crystal Palace for a period of time, where he was a significant reason, and perhaps the main reason often, why they retained their Premier League status in the time that they did. Coming to this league, I felt it was just a great move for him. Dean Smith will know everything that he can bring to this team as well. I think there are certain players that you look at their character, their personality, their ability to entertain on the field, and you kind of feel, some players, they're made for America. And I felt when Zaha was signed, he's a player that, if all goes well, and you can never be certain with any transfer in soccer, and we're seeing the struggles of the likes of Giroud and LAFC at the moment and things, and but if all goes well, here's a guy who can be a star in this league, and of course he needs to keep fit as well, because if he's a little bit in and out, one or two, he's had the injury, and then he had to go back to England, of course, as well at the beginning of the campaign.
Right.
But so get him consistently on the field and consistently performing. He's a player that's gonna thrill the fans for, I hope, a long time to come.
Yeah. As far as San Diego FC, like, what is the playing style that you've noticed from them so far, and what do they like to do that may cause Charlotte some problems?
Well, they've been bold. They're ambitious. They're not afraid to play out from the back. So you're going to see them play a level of risk that some teams shy away from. I think, though, their technical quality and ability on the ball, and their clear ideas about obviously what Mikey Varas wants them to do and the approach that they are going to take, just speaks to obviously a very good preseason and a very well communicated plan from Mikey Varas. So all credit to him, because I felt like from day one in this league, you watched this team the first night at LA Galaxy. I mean, they caught the Galaxy probably at a good moment, but this was a team that knew exactly what their plan was, and understood very quickly what their identity is going to be. And they've hit the ground running in this league. And, they've got plenty of players who can just help excel and produce the very best for San Diego going forward. And obviously they've got the star quality. We all looked at the beginning of the season at Chucky Lozano. He's come back the last couple of games, having been injured early on in the first game. But Anders Dreyer has been impressive. And actually, one person who stood out, who I'll throw in there, that was obviously a part of a successful expansion team, and probably was somebody who thought he might be a more rotational piece, but has been actually a very important anchor for them in front of the back line, has been Anibal Godoy, who's been excellent for them. At a time and a stage in his career where you think, are his legs going to carry him through the rigors of another MLS season?
Right.
Well, right now, they are. And then, you look at Nair and McVeigh, a wonderful pairing that for the most part have been at the back for San Diego as well. Nair has come across from England. So, we'll see how. I wondered how he might adjust. Long summer to come for him, some hot weather conditions to play in. But they've impressed me so far. It's been a good start.
And they have the San Diego native Luca de la Torre.
Yep.
And I think they have a lot of solid quality pieces. It's just, how are they going to play together, and how is their style going to come out? And right now, I think we're seeing a lot of, like you said, like energetic, more ambitious type stuff, but maybe it'll settle into like what actually sticks for them. Now, on Charlotte's end,
and like I said, I sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, what I was going to say was really just repeating what I mentioned before, which is while that style develops, you're probably going to see some inconsistency develop, but that'll be the challenge for them next season. Can they be a St. Louis who actually can go all the way and finish high in the West, and in St. Louis's case, obviously finish top, or will they just drop off a little bit as the season goes on, and one or two of the slower starters in the West perhaps get better?
All right, we talked about a couple of the San Diego's players, and you mentioned Zaha, but what about Pep Biel? Pep Biel, what do you think about his play this year? Been a lot of focus on him.
Yeah, started very well, hasn't he? Didn't see too much out of him last year when he came into the league, but certainly is proving to be a heck of an influence on this team at the moment. He's got that ability to pick a pass, find a player, carve open a defense, a lovely style in which he does it as well, just opening in the body, just a great quality. Looks so at ease on the ball. The ball is his friend. It's very, very comfortable. And of course, has proved as well that he's going to chip in with some goals as well from time to time. So a good start to the year for him. A bonus in many ways, because a player we already knew about was already here. When you see his performances on top of some of the new faces, that's a great addition, or a great bonus to Dean Smith, that BL is really starting to come of age in this league.
Now, without mentioning Patrick Agyemang, I want to also talk about Idan Tokomani. So both of them, I feel like is almost like a 1-2 punch. You have Patrick, who has obvious skills and quickness, and his size and his physical aspects can wear down defenses, and they have to contend with that all the time. and then you have Toklamani, who's a little craftier, a little quicker in steps, bringing him in after that. Do you think that's a good combination? It seems like that's what's been happening lately.
Yeah, that's right. And it's the first thing is it's really good competition because I think you've got two players there who are vying for a starting position up top. Adjamang has been playing for this Charlotte team. I feel like under a shadow for some time that, well, they're always looking for somebody else, maybe the big signing. But in the meantime, Patrick, you've got the spot. And I think, he has dealt with that extremely well and actually thrived on it. And has really laid down a marker to say to them, well, no, you don't need to keep looking around because I want to be the guy. Now, Toklamati's come into the side and is putting pressure on. And I think you'll see this alternating going on for a while, I would suspect, unless one really makes it impossible for Dean Smith to drop. But I think they could be a complementary pair. I think that's a really astute comment from you there to talk about it as a kind of 1-2 punch. Particularly as we get, of course, into the summer months as well, and we're playing in warm weather conditions where really your substitutions, your alterations in games are massive in MLS when you start playing in warmer weather, and the season's rigors start to be felt by the roster. So right now, a very good complementary pair and a good battle for who actually gets to start every week.
Right. Do you see any X factors or any like unsung type people on each squad that if they do something, it might make the difference, or maybe they're doing something behind the scenes that we don't even notice, but it's like, this is really what helps the engine work?
Well, I think there's always going to be a good battle in midfield, and I think it's going to be interesting this weekend, depending on the team selections, but there is that experience of Ashley Westwood in the middle of the park for Charlotte, and he said publicly what a boost and kind of fillip to his career it's been, to come to Charlotte, and he's fallen in love with the game again. And then he's going to be up against, a San Diego midfield, which could have the veteran Godoy sitting in there as well. There's going to be battles won in the middle of the field as well that may not be as catching on the eye as what's going on. I can see a game that at times is a little chess-like, at times goes into a slow pace as one team plays out from the back, the other decides whether to press, how much to press. But then it's also a game that has the ability, I think, to be quite explosive from both sides. So from that point of view, tactically, I think we've got a really interesting game coming up on Saturday.
Nice. Now, how do you see San Diego FC fitting into just the whole MLS landscape as an expansion team? We talked a little bit about them just growing this year, but like in the bigger picture, how have you seen the way the club is constructed?
Well, it's a fascinating kind of concept, isn't it? The ownership structure is different again, and I think that's the great thing with Major League Soccer. As the years are going by, we have more and more ownership groups coming in, more and more people who have a vision for the game in the United States, in North America as a whole. And San Diego is a great addition. Geographically works. What a fantastic part of the world as well. I've been to San Diego once. As a plea to my bosses here, I'm not averse to going to San Diego to do a game anytime soon. Feel free to send me over there if you want. I very much would look forward to to going over to Snapdragon and seeing a game there as well. 30 teams now, and I think also a market that is craving and loving having professional football, albeit with the round ball back in the city. So a great fit for the league. And a good story to start with as well, with their performances on the field. I think everybody wants to see expansion teams make a good start and also make an impact. And when we think back to Charlotte, I know the first season on the field, results wise, wasn't always great, and it was a difficult, bumpy start into the league. But the one thing everybody knew about Charlotte was it was going to be a great market in the league. The attendances were going to be superb. The stadium was going to look great. And it continues to do so, and the fan base is absolutely there. And it's one of the best cities in the league. When I'm at Charlotte for a game, I see the likes of yourself before the game, and then after the game, we love to go and join the fans, have a post-match drink, and there's a real great soccer culture there.
Nice. So speaking of just Charlotte as their squad was built, you've seen it from the start. You've been close up with Nashville. We've all been able to watch St. Louis and how they developed, and what's happened to them just in like 2 or 3 short years. That how they went from first and not even doing anything in the playoffs, and then finishing towards the bottom, and now kind of having that next season back to be in the middle of the mix. What are your impressions on how Charlotte FC has approached as an expansion team coming in the league now, looking in 4 years?
Well, I would think probably if Charlotte went back to the very beginning, they would look at it and acknowledge, they probably made 1 or 2 mistakes along the way. It was a bumpy start, as we mentioned. We always knew that, off the field and the scene and everything about Charlotte was built to be successful. But it's tough with expansion, getting it right, getting the right fit. Sometimes it's luck as well with players. You can bring in players you can be pretty sure of that are going to be instant hits, and it doesn't work out for whatever reason. I just told you a few moments ago how certain I am that Wilfried Zaha is a star in waiting in MLS. But, you never know. It doesn't always come out like that. So the challenge for Charlotte has been to kind of quickly, get back on their feet and push forward. And I think we've seen a real change now under Dean Smith. I mean, Christian Latanzio, by the way, was a wonderfully kind guy to chat to, very engaging, loved talking about the game with him, had a style he wanted to play, and it was pleasant to watch as well. But I think they just wanted a little bit of a harder edge and wanted to be a little bit more successful and wanted to take a bigger stride more quickly. And with Dean Smith available, I think that was that was behind that decision to bring a new face in. Because now this team, it's an ambitious group. Charlotte, everybody knows it's an ambitious ownership group that wants to see the team doing well, wants to be competing in playoffs and championships at the end of seasons. And they've got a head coach who certainly will, go a long way towards helping them do that. So good times at the moment for this Charlotte group. And the one thing as well about them is that if the cap allows it, if the roster rules allow it, they're always going to try and push the needle a little bit further.
Yeah, they definitely want to spend if they can. Any particular person or moment that you're personally excited about for calling this match? Or there's something you're really looking forward to that maybe you haven't seen before?
Well, it's the first time for a few years. It must be 5-6 years since I've seen Zaha, since his days at Palace. So I'm looking forward to seeing him live again. And I hope that, he lives up to the big billing that I've given him. And I want to see the progress as well of Patrick Adjumang, because we got to do Charlotte quite early last season when he was just making his kind of first foray into the team. We chatted to him at length, Ross Smith and I. What a fantastic guy. Just such a nice fella. And I just want to see where that development has come, because right then he was raw and he was new and everything was new to him in the league. Really, he'd had a taste of it at the end of the previous season. Now I want to see the US international goal scorer in Patrick Adjumang and watch with my own eyes from inside the stadium to see how he's developed. And indeed just see the evolution of this team under Dean from last year, where it was so obvious very quickly he got them organised, that now that the team wants to take the next step on. I was in Orlando for the fateful game 3 of the playoffs, where I felt Charlotte were very unlucky, actually, because I think Adjumang had a goal it was a very, very close call for offside in the first half. I felt he was onside, but the decision went against him, and who knows what happens if that goal stands. So from that point of view, greatly looking forward to it. And then with San Diego, having obviously had an opportunity to see a lot of expansion teams in the last few years, I just want to get a look at their identity up front. I want to see, are there the signs there that this is a team that's got staying power, or is this a team that might just drift as the year goes on? They got some familiar faces, some star attractions as well. All set for a very, very good game.
Well, awesome. I'm looking forward to not only seeing you, but for everybody to listen on Apple TV MLS Season Pass for the 7:30 kickoff with not only Tony Husband, but also good man Ross Smith by his side calling this match. Thanks, Tony, for being on. Appreciate it.
No problem, Nick. Always a pleasure.
Again, thanks for listening to another episode of the Charlotte FC podcast, where we bring you the fascinating people who work for and around Charlotte FC and the world of football. The Charlotte FC podcast is edited and produced by me, Nick Finelli, and Eli Finelli. Please help us out and share this episode with others. 5 stars, and follow CLTFC podcast on Instagram, X, and YouTube. Until next time, enjoy the day.